Hey everybody, we're back with episode 57. It's been a busy week for everybody.
Yeah.
So busy for Bill that he can't even join us this week, and we feel for him. And
We
we're
love you,
hoping
Bill.
we're hoping he's with us again next week and a little less stress in his life. So I just want to apologize in advance. It's going to be a real casual, underprepared episode. We're going to talk about something I know you like, actually. If I had to pick one of you guys to talk about this topic, it would be yourself.
Yes.
We're going to talk about some fighting games after we catch up on what we've been doing.
Excited.
So, what have you been playing this last week? Anything? Or you had a chance to play anything?
Well, I mean, since last time, I've just been doing mostly of the computer work. So, I think you guys have probably heard, and if you followed on Twitter, basically there was the two portables that I got from work. So there was the compact portable and the portable 2. I'm still working with Luke from Console 5. So for some reason, if you guys have not gone to console5.com before, that's a great website where you can get a lot of repair parts and stuff for consoles and stuff. And if you're looking for kits, you can get with Luke and he'll help prepare a kit. And I usually try to do that. I can source my own parts, like capacitors and things. But he sells things at a great price because he buys in some bulk. So I really don't save much money in doing it myself. And B, it helps prepare kits and things so other people that may need to do these things in the future, they can just buy a kit and not have to try to figure out what parts they need. So he does a lot of that. So if you're in the U.S. and you need something, Console 5, and I know, Canada too.
I've ordered, not recently, but a couple of years ago, some kits off him. Same thing. Yeah, shipping was fine for up here, as fine as it ever is out of the U.S., but the kits were reasonably priced.
Yeah, it's he runs that. I don't know if it's his main livelihood or his side hustle, but, just from odds and ends, emails back and forth, I know he has his kids help him and run the business out of the house. Who knows? Maybe someday we should ask him to come on. It'd be an interesting conversation.
That could be, yeah.
So I'm waiting for a cap kit to redo a power supply on the portable 1, so I really haven't had any time to dig any further into it. I really have no idea, other than I know the hard drive's dead because I swapped it. But that's not surprising. These are really ancient 20-megabyte hard drives. Both hard drives were dead. I got all the stuff I needed for the portable too, so I put in, it's got a very early IDE controller in it, but it's still IDE compatible, so I got a compact flash to IDE setup on it, set that up today, threw DOS on it, and playing around, so everything is up and running, working really well, so I'll be trying to work on buttoning it up and then maybe having some fun with an old 286 portable, quote-unquote, computer. And I'll fix the other one up. I probably think I will end up selling maybe the first portable once I'm done with it. It's an 8088, so it's an old XT machine, and with a 286, there's not much I'm gonna do with it. But besides that, and working on some other stuff, that's been taking up my time. News-wise, I've keep an eye on Twitter and some of the developments that are happening there. So if you guys are on there, you've seen things too. But the one thing that hit me was the Satiator, which was, there's been a lot of, and we've talked about these optical disc emulators, systems. There's a new one for PlayStation that just hit, this X Station. There's the mode we talked about a while back for Saturn and Dreamcast. And then this one that I've been watching for and I thought was going to be really good was this thing called the Satiator, which is basically a card that will just plug into the card slot in the back of the Saturn. So you don't have to do really any mods at all. Just plug it in, away you go, right?
Okay.
Which is really cool. It's a great idea. Unfortunately, it's like $260. So
US too. Cool.
Yeah. So it's the most expensive solution that's out there. But again, it is completely plug and play. Just pop it in and away you go. I haven't seen anything yet on compatibility, but I hear it's really good. I would like to get something for my Saturn at some point in time. I have 2 Saturns. I'll keep my original legit forever, but my other one's already modded, and so I'll probably get something in there as well at some point. What I go with, I don't know, because it's some expensive stuff. So
yeah,
we'll wait and see how that turns out. I was not expecting that to be... I was thinking $200 top end. because I think the mode is like $200. But anyway, we'll see how that pans out. Playing, besides goofing off and trying to get these computers to work, I've played a little more Neo Geo, just the World Heroes.
World Heroes?
Yeah, so we're talking about fighting games, so,
Perfect.
I played a little more World Heroes. Eventually, on the slow boat from Japan, I'll have some more fighting games coming in. I've got a copy of Samurai Showdown 2 and Fatal Fury Special, I think is what's coming in. I don't have them here yet. And then again, I'm still saving my pennies up for a flash cart, so I'll have all the good Neo Geo fighters.
Was it just the price why you picked up those two games, or do you have any old childhood links to those two as well?
I do. I played a ton of Samurai Showdown 1 and 2 in the arcade, so I definitely wanted to get them. And Sam Show 1 and 2 are pretty cheap. For AES cards.
They're some of the easiest ones to pick up for sure.
Yeah.
Same with the Fatal Fury games.
Right, and so I think maybe it's Fatal Fury 2 Special, or I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at it because it's the Japanese version. But so I played Fatal Fury a lot. I guess I think I mentioned before. I played a lot of World Heroes because Neo Geos were just everywhere around here. I don't know about where you were at. There were a lot of NDS cabinets.
Never saw one growing up.
Really?
Never.
There were a lot of them here.
I didn't see a machine with even Puzzle Bobble in it until within the last 10 years at an arcade in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, 4-slot MVS machines were pretty common around here back in the day.
I have a hunch they probably were around the Vancouver area, but I didn't grow up around that area, so we didn't get down there very often to arcade.
Gotcha. So, I mean, while I played a lot of Street Fighter, obviously, and Mortal Kombat, but there was tons of Neo Geo because it was there. So every time the new Neo Geo games would come out, we would play them. That's why I've said I played Fighter's History. I played a lot of both the World Heroes games. Art of Fighting, we played that one. Although Art of Fighting is probably my least favorite out of that grouping.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah.
We played some King of Fighters when that first hit.
Because all those other ones kind of predate King of Fighters by a year or two. I was going to ask if you got into those.
Just a little bit. I mean, probably King of Fighters 95 and 96 around there was probably about as far as I went before I was mostly let's play things at home.
Oh, that's too bad because the next year's when they really hit their stride. 97's like one of my favorites.
Yeah, I hear 97 and 2000 are
98 and 2002 are usually the fan favorites, but 97's where they found the formula that works, and they just perfected it with 98 kind of thing.
Yeah, I played it when it was pretty new, and the idea was pretty new.
94 is rough. That's playing an Art of Fighting, Fatal Fury kind of fighter. But 95 and 96, they're getting a little more solid there too.
Yeah, and I liked 95 enough to where I bought it when it came to PlayStation, but it was not very good on PlayStation. So
I haven't played that version.
It's not very good. So I'm really looking forward to having a flash cart so I can get back and play more of those and some of the other neat. Because I played Puzzle Bobble. I played a lot of Neo Geo back in the day. Nice. To the point where if there was some place where I could have gotten a Neo Geo save card, I would have bought one. I mean, there were a few times where I plugged my headphones in.
Did you ever see AES stuff in a store when you were growing up?
Never.
No? Yeah, I mean, where you would have bought that stuff.
I would see
order.
Yeah, magazine ads for AES stuff, but literally never saw any of it in a store in my life. I think I said that before, I never saw an AES until conventions and things.
Yeah.
When I started going.
Same way.
I just didn't unobtainium. It just really wasn't a thing. I'm sure there probably was some rich kid somewhere that had one, but it just was not a thing. I did see Neo Geo CD. I knew of a few people that had those when it was a thing. But I mean, still, one person, you know what I mean? And you're okay. So, that's kind of it for me. It's what I've been up to. I'm going to play some Battletoads, so I can tell you about it.
Please do. I'm curious. I've
Yeah.
heard mostly negative stuff about it, but since I mentioned it to you, I've heard a few people be like, "No, this is really funny and the writing's really good in it. Makes it worthwhile."
Yeah, so I'll give it a shot for you since it's on Game Pass anyway. I'll let you know what I think.
And it's supposedly not hard as nails like the old stuff. Like it's very reasonable from what I hear.
And I really want to play Mortal Shell, which just hit
Oh yeah, saw that
digitally.
trailer.
Yeah, it just hit digitally, but it did get announced that they're doing a physical release in October. So I'm just gonna wait and pick up the physical release in October, which is a shame. I'd really like to play it now, but October's not that far away.
Yeah, just a couple months.
And so the fall's coming up. I'll have that to look forward to. Bravely Default 2 at some point. They keep saying 2020. So
They
at some point,
haven't pushed that back yet.
no, not yet. So I'll keep crossing my fingers on that one.
Nintendo's supposedly doing a big direct in September. Maybe they'll talk about that in there.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's got to be like a Christmas release or something, I would imagine. Yeah. But I think that's probably most of it for me. I'm learning a whole lot about creating discs for ancient systems, and so yeah,
useful life information.
Totally not practical, but fun. How about you?
I've been putting in a lot of extra hours at my old store trying to get them ready because they had to move locations a little more abruptly than they'd planned to. So there's kind of a rush to get this new place renovated and open again because you can only be closed without revenue coming in for so long.
Yeah.
So everyone's putting in long hours, long days, all week long, doing construction work, trying to get this place up and running. But it's going to look amazing when it's done.
Cool. I want to see some pictures.
Yeah, like I'm sure they'll blow them out on the Facebook page, but I'll steal some and send them up to you. So my game time's been really limited this last couple of weeks. I had one day last Sunday where I got to sit down and really dig into Sky Kid, which I'd been tinkering with the few days prior to that.
Okay.
And make my way through that. I got to loop that game, and it's really tough, but fair tough. It's not frustrating, which because it's such an early game, I was very much expecting a frustrating experience, but I kind of liked it. So I think Sky Kid's a solid little shooter. It's got some neat ideas in it. Some weird mechanics, and you scroll to the left for some reason.
Yeah, I've played that one before. It's kind of again, it was early days, right? So
yeah, because you can like you can just shoot them up like any shoot 'em up, just fly around, dodge the stuff, shoot the guys. But there's like land things to attack you that shoot missiles and stuff like straight up, and then there's the airplanes that come from the top from both sides of the screen. And then every once in a while, you'll have bombs you can pick up on the bottom of the stage, and you can fly them up. And then when you get to these big like fortresses or airship or aircraft carriers, you can drop the bomb on them. And if you hit them dead center, you'll sink them and get a huge bonus at the end of the stage. Or you can just like miss them a little bit, hit their guns on the side, and just get a few extra bonus points. But it was neat. I liked it.
Very good.
I started my way through a Tecmo Super Bowl season as well.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think I'm through the season, so I should be into playoffs next time I boot that game up. So still got a little ways to go.
Is that an 18-game season?
There's 17 weeks, I think, in the season before the playoffs start.
Okay, so probably like there's bye weeks. Do they have bye weeks and all that, or?
I don't know. I haven't looked too far into it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I've seen everybody in their divisions are being declared division winners. So then now we start the playoffs where the division winners all play each other, and then I think the Super Bowl is after that.
So what team are you playing as?
The San Francisco 49ers, I think.
Okay. Is that still Joe Montana days?
That is, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Joe Montana has got me a couple touchdowns.
I'm sure he has. Jerry Rice and Joe Montana, right?
Yeah, that's the team. And there's a guy named Dexter, I think, on there.
I don't know.
Dexter Carter? I don't know.
I just remember those guys from the 90s.
Yeah, well, you only throw to like the same two guys every time because they're just the ones who run the plays that way. Mm-hmm. So I really only see Jerry Rice and this I think it's Dexter Carter guy score most of my touchdowns.
Oh, there you go.
I run through with Montana. Just gonna edit out that car noise there.
Okay.
And then today, there's been a lot of DC news coming out, which I've been like so waiting for. So I've been taking little breaks at work all day. I'm like, you guys want to come watch the Wonder Woman trailer? You want to come watch the Batman Gotham Knights reveal? And wow, this just today was like my E3, and I really had low expectations for this DC fandom thing.
Okay, do me a favor, because I haven't got to consume any of it yet. I mean, I'm going to watch the trailers tomorrow, but catch me up on the quick news.
Wonder Woman 1984 had a bigger trailer, showed Kristen Wiig doing the cheetah thing.
Yeah.
It looks good. I wasn't a huge fan of the last Wonder Woman movie, but I'm very excited for this next one.
I love Wonder Woman. I love that Wonder Woman movie, so I'm excited.
Yeah, so I think you'll like what they show then, because it looks really, really cool. She's literally lassoing lightning bolts from the sky to fly off of.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Some cool stuff in there. The Snyder cut of Justice League.
Yeah.
They showed a big trailer, and the whole trailer was stuff that's not in the original movie.
Cool.
And apparently it's going to be 4 hours long.
Nice.
There's that much extra footage.
Nice.
So it might be a significantly different movie.
Good.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm willing to give it another shot.
I've heard.
I really didn't like the last one.
Did I catch that they're going to put Black Suit Superman?
Yeah, Black Suit Superman. Darkseid was in the trailer, and he
really
wasn't in the last movie at all. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They were showing. It looked like Cyborg has a lot more stuff going on too. They were like showing him playing football, showing his dad building him. Like there was a lot of stuff.
And I heard that they're going to totally redo Steppenwolf.
Oh, I hope so.
That's what I heard. Is like totally redo Steppenwolf.
Yeah, he was very shallow in the last one. So yeah, if they make him a little more fleshed out, I would not have a problem with that.
Cool. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. So this movie that I hated when I watched, I'm excited to rewatch for some reason. So hoping that goes well. I love the Batman Arkham games, and they announced Batman Gotham Knights, which is the WB Montreal studio that did Arkham Origins. They're doing this game, and they've been working on it for a long time. So Batman's dead at the start of this game. Jim Gordon's dead at the start of this game. And you play as Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Tim Drake's Robin. And it sounds like you can co-op through it, like with one friend, to do like 2 players co-op. But it looks very much like the Arkham style games, and it's going to have the Court of Owls, which I don't know if you're familiar with. They're a relatively modern villain, but they're like a evil secret society, and they have these like these talons, they call them, and they're basically like undead soldiers that they've resurrected to like fight, so that you can have a whole army of these talons, which are like owl ninjas, to fight in this game. It looks really, really interesting. There's just the one trailer so far, so not a ton of the story or the gameplay and stuff yet, but what they showed, I'm pretty pumped for, and it's going to actually be on current gen stuff still, as well as next gen stuff.
Oh,
and that comes out next year. Rocksteady, who did the big Arkham games, they announced their Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League game.
Oh.
Similar style to what I just described, where there's 4 main characters and you can co-op through it as well. So you're Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, King Shark, and Deadshot.
Okay.
And you just see them goofing around, killing some generic villains at the start. In a metropolis that has been decimated, there's a huge Brainiac ship on like Metropolis with its like tendrils in the grounds everywhere.
Wow.
And they're trying to figure out who their target is after they kill all these guys. And then Superman comes down and he like seemingly saves a helicopter pilot from a crashing helicopter.
Yeah. And
they're all praising him like, "Oh, Superman, you saved that guy, great." And then he looks at him and laser eyes the pilot to death.
Oh.
And then he like stares at them and they see that he's the next target.
Oh, wow.
But it was just a CG trailer, and apparently that one's 2 years off still. You're going to do 2022 on that one.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. They showed a teaser trailer for the new Suicide Squad movie. And holy, they've beefed up the cast. There's like 12 to 15 like villains in that movie, and you'll probably recognize most of the actors in them. Like it looks like a big beefy cast of D-list villains that they're gonna have a lot of fun with.
Well, yeah. I mean, it seems like on that first one, they blew their budget on Will Smith. Yeah. I mean,
This time they got like Nathan Fillion and Idris Elba, John Cena. Like
John Cena?
Yeah, they got a whole bunch of people in this movie. And,
Okay.
and some real deep cuts of villains. Like I haven't even heard of a few of them.
Okay.
Yeah, but they didn't really show a trailer. They just showed like this is the character, the actor, and what they look like, and then they just moved to the next one.
Okay.
It was like a roll call basically.
Okay.
And then the last thing I saw, like minutes before you logged on and we started chatting, they showed a trailer for The Batman, the new Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves Batman movie.
Right.
It looks so good.
Really?
So good. Yes. So good. I am extremely excited for it now.
Oh, jeez. Well.
Yeah. It just looks like a really dark detective movie.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect, I guess, out of it. So.
I don't think anybody did, but watch the trailer. Let me know what you think.
Okay.
I'm really into it.
I guess I didn't ask. Is Margot Robbie in the new Suicide Squad?
Movie, yes. Game, no.
Okay.
Yeah. She's still in the movie. I don't think I saw Will Smith in.
Yeah, I would imagine
the trailer though.
That's fine. He brought nothing to that part,
and they didn't like recast him or anything. But
yeah, they
still had like Joel Kinnaman from the first one in this one, and Margot Robbie and Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang. Those were the three coming back, I think, and I think everyone else was new.
I think that's good. I wonder if they're going to do a spinoff with and I'm sorry, I can't even think now. But in the Harley Quinn movie where they set up
Birds of Prey.
Yeah, Birds of Prey. They set up the Birds of Prey. I wonder if they're going to make a spinoff movie on that.
I think it did well enough. I wouldn't be surprised.
I think they've got some characters that would work there.
Very much, yeah. Huntress really stood out to me. I'd watch more of her for sure.
Yeah.
If they didn't kill off, spoiler, sorry. If they didn't kill off Black Mask, I could see him showing up again. But he's done unless they go prequel territory.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they could go that way with it. But
No. Yeah.
Cool. Very good. Well, I'm excited that tomorrow I'm going to spend some time watching some trailers and trying to catch up on the news. I'm glad that they did this kind of event, right?
I had very low expectations for this, but it turned out really well. And they pulled Aisha Tyler to do all the transitions in between stuff like they did with the old Ubisoft press conferences.
Smart.
She did a great job as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they showed The Rock as Black Adam. That was another thing they showed today.
Oh, very good.
Pretty cool. It's just a real quick teaser where he's talking about how the power level of the DC universe is about to change. And they show him in his costume real quick. He looks good.
Any news on a Shazam 2?
No, I guess yesterday the producer, the writer, director, one of those guys, was trolling fans, asking them to send him news about Shazam 2. I hope they do that. That's my favorite so far.
I think that's got to be a given, right? I mean, it did great. Good.
And they set it up with the whole family to really be a totally different movie next time.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. And that was just the thing I liked about the movie. It was just fun. You know?
I watched it with my wife and son, and we all laughed like the whole time through. There was a lot of great moments in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that perfect paradigm of kids going, you know?
Yeah. And they were like real kids. Like,
right.
Yeah, they were funny and weird and annoying, and it was great.
Yeah, and the guy, I don't know the actor's name offhand, that played Shazam, did a perfect job of pulling off that kid mentality,
Yeah,
and that attitude.
Real goofy and weird and unaware of consequences sometimes, and
did a great job at doing that. But all right, well, very cool. I'm glad to hear all that.
yeah, so watch some trailers tomorrow and shoot me a message. I want to know what you think about Wonder Woman and the Batman specifically, and even the Justice League trailer. Like I'm strangely excited for that now.
Well, I like DC, so yeah. Even some of the films that have not been great, and there's been a few of them that have been not great, but I'll stick with them. I like them enough.
Cool.
I like the characters, cool. I guess I should say.
Yeah, I like a lot of the, like, I didn't love the Wonder Woman movie. I do like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I do like Ben Affleck as Batman. I just want them to have better things to say and do in their movies.
I really like Aquaman, what they've done with him. And that whole Aquaman movie, which was basically like a space adventure, except in water instead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what it felt like to me. Like, I'm watching a space movie, but it's not a space movie. They're underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they've got plenty of material to work with.
Definitely. Yeah.
I think if they can just write it well. I mean, Cyborg is a good character. Yeah. Yep.
They've barely scratched the surface of any of them except for Batman and Superman. So they've got so much to pull from
Flash.
every one of those other guys.
Oh, well, not in the films, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean in the films, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they got lots of room to go with it, so I guess we'll see how that turns out. Very good.
Yeah. So, you want to talk about some fighting games?
I love talking about fighting games, so
I was hoping you'd say that.
Let's do it.
So, do you remember the first fighting game you've ever played?
I mean, if I could put it in, I guess if I want to bend the genre as far as I can bend it, I'd probably say I played ER Kung Fu.
Bend it hard.
I don't know.
Yeah?
Yeah, I played ER Kung Fu in the arcade. It was not great. And I also, so I don't remember which one came out first. I played that one. I played Karate Champ. I played both of those in the arcade. Karate Champ was a mess. I could never figure out how to actually do any moves, but my friends and I would have fun trying to fight each other. Playing the computer was a joke.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I played that one not as early as you did, but I had the same problem. It was so painful to play against the CPU, but I could totally see having fun with a friend because you're both struggling the same amount.
That, and we're just you would just laugh because you remember Karate Champ. You could get like turned around. We're not even facing each other anymore. Yeah. I mean, it's a horrible mess. So when you actually managed to score a point somehow, you just yelled and screamed and had fun. And ER Kung Fu was. I mean, it was a fighting game. It was just very early. So, I mean, while I played those, I guess technically they were kind of the progenitors of the genre. But, I mean, definitely the original Street Fighter 2 is what got me hook, line, and sinker. And so I played the arcade version of Street Fighter after that because it was such a big thing. Some of the arcades, found old Street Fighter 1 machines and brought them in, but that game was terrible. So,
yeah.
But no, I mean, I remember playing Street Fighter 2 anywhere I could, wherever I could, for a long time. And I mean, that's when I got into, and everybody was getting into it. So I mean, here there was a local arcade. It was at a putt-putt, and I had a job. At the time, I was old enough to have a job. So I would go in $10 and you would get basically $15 worth of tokens and just play Street Fighter. And it was OG Street Fighter 2. And we had another arcade in our mall. Same thing, right? They had OG Street Fighter 2. And we'll get into all that, I guess, more. Yeah. But, they eventually had Rainbow Edition and Champion Edition.
I always have heard about Rainbow Edition. I've never actually seen a cabinet running that.
Oh yeah, they the arcade was at the mall had Rainbow Edition, and they did not have that at the putt-putt. So that's when we started going to that one because we're like, no, we want to play, and it was so broken. That game was so incredibly trash broken, but you'd play it just because it was ridiculous, the stuff that you could do. Whereas you were playing legit Street Fighter 2, it was okay, it was a skill game. I mean, Rainbow Edition was just trash, but you played it anyway because it was just ridiculous.
Sure. Did you have like a character you gravitated towards back then, or were you
at the
all over
beginning?
the
Was
place?
Chun-Li.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like the original Street Fighter 2, mostly I played Chun-Li because her moves were pretty easy to learn, right?
Mhm.
I knew how to do all of her special moves. I mean,
I always found her spin kick hard to pull off.
the spinning bird kick.
Yeah.
No, I think once you learn charges, it wasn't that bad for me, at least. And then eventually, of course, then I moved to the Shotos and Ken and Ryu, but that was after learning the fireballs. And I remember like some of the first times when you actually learned how to do a fireball, right? And you're like, ah! And so that's all you would do, right? Like that's all you would sit and just throw fireballs.
Yeah.
Because if the other person didn't know what to do, you would just smoke them. Of course, that didn't last a whole lot, but no, yeah. In the beginning, it was Chun-Li, and I always wanted to play Zangief, but I just could never get his moves down. Because like he had like the 7 trillion throws in OG Street Fighter 2. And it was always like forward and this button would do this throw, and back and this button would do that throw. And like literally the guy had just, I mean, dozens, maybe not dozens, but like a dozen different throws that you could do. So, yeah, I don't know. How about you? I mean, where did you get started with this stuff?
Street Fighter 2 as well. It's probably my first exposure, and I already fell in love with the genre like right off the bat because I missed the crappy ones. I didn't have to live through Karate Champ and Urban Champion and all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
So I think would have been my 8th birthday probably. I might be off a year. But my parents rented a Super Nintendo console for me because we didn't have one yet. And Street Fighter 2 for my birthday.
Oh.
And there was like 3 or 4 dudes over from school, and we just stayed up till 2 a.m, eating pizza, drinking soda, and playing Street Fighter 2. And it was, to this day, my favorite birthday I've ever had. It was so much fun.
My still one of my best friends still. I mean, but back then, this was back when Street Fighter 2 we knew it was coming to Super Nintendo. And I had Genesis, he had Super Nintendo. So he had ordered, because he was working too. So he had ordered the game, and he'd ordered 2 arcade sticks for Super Nintendo.
Hardcore.
And, yeah. So he was getting it all, like, right when it released. And so we did not, like, leave his house, except when we had to for, I mean, forever. We just played so much of that Super Nintendo version. It was nuts.
Yeah. I remember we played, like, how you normally play. Like, if you win, you hold on to your controller, and the next guy comes up, tries to tell you, takes you down. We all had not really played it before, so that we didn't have a person dominating. It was a lot of passing off. And then after everyone had tried every character, we decided we wanted to try and like beat the story of the game. And I think the only character we made it through the game with that night was Blanca.
Okay.
Yeah, but we figured that out, made our way through.
So did you have move sheets or?
No, I don't remember it coming with the manual even. So I think we were going in blind, and I think that's why we liked Blanca, because we figured out the electricity. We didn't know a lot of other special moves.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so I stuck with him for a while. He was my favorite, both because he looked cool, like a crazy Ninja Turtle or something.
Sure.
Yeah, and he had the zappy move we could figure out right off the bat.
Yeah, there was something about that competition that came with that game that just never had really been there before in arcades. I mean, you'd play for like high score before and get your name in, but that wasn't you versus someone else. And to have this new thing where it's 2 people side by side, duking it out, that was such a big thing.
I think that was a new experience of how to play with others for me too, because prior to that, like you played Mario games, but you're passing off, you're taking a turn, then you like sit and wait while the other guy does his turn. Played a little bit of things like Contra and stuff before, but no one ever wanted to play with me. So those were like solo games to me. I didn't really have the co-op experience, and I definitely didn't have like a against another human player experience. I don't think before that one, other than the original Mario Bros, the like little mini game they do in Mario 3.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So we played a little bit of that, but it was never we never played Mario 3 to play that. That was just something goofy when you wanted to steal their card and try and get the extra free man for it.
Yeah, and there's always those modes like in Double Dragon. Was it Double Dragon 2 that had the versus or mode to it? So
yeah,
but it was kind of just like a weird thing. You were like, let's play this for a minute.
It was the same thing. Nobody wanted to play Double Dragon 2 with me. I loved playing that game by myself, though.
Yeah,
I didn't have that co-op experience with that one either.
Oh yeah. I had a buddy that we'd play those games with. That was what we would go and rent. That's what we'd do for every weekend, is we'd go rent a game, because at the video store where we were, they weren't open on Sundays. So if you rented a game on Saturday, you had to keep it till Monday. So that's what we would do. And so, we'd get a game every week, and we rented everything. So, we found the really terrible games and the really good ones, but the Double Dragon, like 2 and stuff, we went back to that one quite often.
Nice. And shortly after that Street Fighter 2 experience, I learned my cousin had World Fighters 2. So I ended up playing a lot of that on Super Nintendo as well right after.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are my foundational ones.
Very good. So a little Capcom, a little SNK.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm curious, since you said you didn't really encounter Neo Geo in the arcades, so, did you play a lot of fighting games in arcades ever, or was it just mostly a home console experience for you?
A little later, because I didn't have access to an arcade until I was in my teens. So the big ones at the time when I go there were like Marvel Superheroes, Killer Instinct, Virtua Fighter just come out. So those were some of the earlier ones that I sunk some quarters into.
Okay. And see, that's where I spent most of my time was. I had the home versions. Like eventually I got, Special Champion Edition when it came to Genesis and whatnot, but it just wasn't the same playing it by yourself. And so that's just, I would always know if I went to the putt-putt, there would always be other guys there to play against. Everybody just went there, and you'd always have somebody to fight against. So you just would go.
We were in a pretty small town, so there wasn't always people to fight against, but I still enjoyed those games in the arcade more just because of the chance. Someone might come up and do it, and I enjoyed I played through Marvel Superheroes like 10 million times with every character, just because I love the characters in the game too. I grew up reading comics and watching the cartoons and stuff, so gravitated towards that one easy.
I would imagine so. Yeah, that one, I never got into the Versus series as much because I had like the crazy high jumps and all that stuff.
I love it. Love those crazy high jumps.
Yeah, I could never get, I'm always like, I can't see the other guy. What am I supposed to do?
There's that little arrow to tell you where
I know, I know, but I'm always like, this is a little too out there for me. But I know, folks that love those things, that's for sure.
They're fun to watch too, those ones. There's just so much going on constantly.
Yeah, these days pretty much the only survivors are like Marvel versus Capcom games, which maybe we'll talk about those at some point in time. But it's kind of sad that the last one did not do well.
Yeah. There was some bunch of stuff with like Disney at the time. Apparently, like they had a lot of influence over what characters were going in the game.
Yeah,
that they didn't previously have, and it was a pretty lame roster when you look back at the ones prior to it, and you're like, this has like everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Like in the whole like fighting game community, basically just kind of poo-pooed it, and it was sort of dead in the water. But it was fun to watch, Yeah. But it just didn't live very long in the tourney scene.
For sure. Since you mentioned the tournament scene, let's jump there for a minute. Have you ever been to any like local level events?
Like legit events? Not really.
Not like, Capcom sponsored events or something, but just like your local game store running or any tournament you ever joined, something like that?
No, like I said, the closest thing I had was, I guess, what I would call our locals, which were back in the day, was at the Putt Putt. I mean, it's just where all the guys went, except for the time where Rainbow was at the other place, where it was more of an oddity that we would go over to that arcade just to check it out. But I mean, the Putt Putt, they had Street Fighter 2. Eventually, they just got each game as it came along. So they got Champion, they got Turbo, they got Super. So, I mean, yeah, we just kept staying there, and it was usually the same group of guys. Every once in a while, you'd have some newbie would show up, and, a lot of times they'd just get trashed and leave, and, But every once in a while, you'd have somebody show up that you hadn't played before, and check it out. And I remember when that year I went to CES in Chicago, like in '92, summer CES, they had Street Fighter 2, and like it was just on the show floor, right? So it was free play. So just people were lined up to play it, and I got up there and I got smoked fast. But that's, you're talking like Chicago. There's like just so many people there. But right. That's probably about as close as I've got. How about you? You ever do the tourney scenes or?
Yeah, a few. First one I did, and these are all like in my adult years because I never ran anything cool like that as a kid. There was a King of Fighters 13 tournament right when it launched at my local EB Games. So I went to that and I ended up winning it.
PS2?
And no, that was 360 and PS3 era.
Okay, I'm trying to remember the timeline on those. Was it 11 was on PS2?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 12 was 360 PS3.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I want to say like 2013-ish is when 13 came out.
Okay, yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, so won the tournament, but the cooler thing was that a couple of the guys that were in the tournament were like, hey, like we do a weekly Street Fighter get together with a whole bunch of guys. Like you should come to this. Like you'd fit in really well. So I ended up going to that, and it was like this really run down, dilapidated old building that one of them had keys to, and like it was winter here in northern Canada, so like because it wasn't a business running in there, they didn't have the heat on, so the toilet bowl was literally frozen solid, like if you had to go to the bathroom.
Oh,
and
wow.
We'd all just huddle up, and a couple guys, hauled CRTs and stuff in their TVs or in their trunks on the way over, and we'd play a bunch of Street Fighter 4 for a while.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was really cool because like everybody knew everybody, and there was one guy who was kind of like started the whole thing up, and he would drive to people's houses, like knock on the door, like wake up, like, I know you were up drinking the night before, we're playing Street Fighter, and he'd like haul people in his car and bring them down, so we'd always have a really good turnout. He moved out of town, unfortunately, a few weeks after I joined, and then we didn't have that person like pushing everybody to get there, and it kind of fell apart.
Oh no.
So when I started my store, one of the earliest things we did was I wanted to do stuff like that again. So we did like a Street Fighter 2 tournaments. We did a lot of Smash Bros events, got really good turnouts. So we kept having those, and those were really fun. I kept growing and growing. I just Soul Calibur 2 event after a little while, which was a really fun one to run too. Yeah, so those are a bunch of the ones I've been a part of at like a local level.
Yeah, I know they've got some locals that go on at an indie, and there's a tournament that happens as part of the Capcom Pro Tour, one of the lower level tournaments that happens in Indianapolis. I always keep meaning to go there, not to compete, more just to watch, because I mean these days it's Street Fighter 5 and some of the other newer games, and I haven't sunk any time. I play them casually, but there's just no way I could be anything sort of competitive, but I like watching this stuff, so one of these days I'm going to get out there.
So I know you follow some pro level players in tournaments.
Yeah.
You got any favorites or standouts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've mentioned before, I'm a big fan of the Capcom Pro Tour. I'm a Street Fighter fan, I've always have been. I mean, I've played other fighting games for fun. But as far as like following tourneys and things, that's Capcom Pro Tour is pretty much the only one I pay much attention to. So yeah, I like to watch not only just the Capcom Pro Tour, but here like they started last year the Street Fighter League, and they have one for the like U.S. and one for Japan. So they had their own seasons, and then they came like at Capcom Cup. They the best of the best of the U.S. and Japanese teams came together and played. So, and I still, this year it's been weird with COVID. They've had to move these tournaments online, which is not as much fun to watch. But no, a lot of the players are probably, players, if you follow that stuff, that anybody would know. Some of them I like to watch stream as well, like Smug is just hilarious. If you've ever watched his stuff, he's an extremely charismatic guy, and he knows how to play to the camera, so he's a lot of fun to watch. And is very good. In terms of like players that I think are fantastic, I mean, obviously you've got like Takedo and Daigo, which are, household names and are pretty great. But
the longevity too is pretty crazy. Like Daigo's been around as long as I've ever like heard of Street Fighter almost.
Oh yeah. And Takedo has been playing for a long time too.
Yeah.
On the Japanese side, you've got a lot of those guys that have been around for a long time, like Mago. Gosh, the names jumped out of my head right this second. I can't think of it. It starts with a K, but anyway. And then there's some new guys that have been coming on the scene, which are fun to watch too, like Ichipamu he's got a great Zangief that he plays. So there's a lot of fun guys. Kazunoko, that's Kazunoko is who I was trying to think of. On the U.S. side, obviously there's like Knuckle-Doo has done really well. He's been consistent. He had a bad car accident, I guess, earlier this year, so I think he was going to give it up, but he's come back, which is good. I hope he's doing well. Scary stuff.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like to watch Punk. Punk has a bit of an attitude to him, as his name implies, but he's got a lot of talent. I think if he could control himself a little bit more, he'd probably do well. I could keep going down the list. Like I said, I'm a fan of watching a lot of this stuff.
So is it like just Street Fighter you follow? You never check out anything else when like Evo's going on? Not even highlights or anything?
Yeah, like Evo, sometimes I'll catch some of the other games, but there's like some I don't mind watching, and there's some I can't watch. Like I have never really gotten to Smash. I don't understand Smash. I can't watch competitive Smash.
I think it is the boringest fighting game to watch.
Yeah, I just don't get the appeal. I don't understand the mechanics well enough, and to me it looks like to get really good you have to just cheese people, and I'm like, that doesn't seem fun to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just don't understand the game. But it's not anything like other traditional fighters, so I don't get it.
Yeah, it's definitely got its own flavor, and I do think it's not as enjoyable to watch, even when you do understand the mechanics.
Okay,
it's just visually, it's not like watching a Street Fighter.
Yeah,
I always like watching some of the weird ones that I don't have the time to invest in, like Underbirth. Recently, like no idea what's going on. Fun as hell to watch that game.
Yeah, it's like
Dragon Ball Fighters. I played it once, and it was actually pretty fun. I really like it. I'm not a Dragon Ball fan. That one I love watching, though. So much fun to see that game. It just looks gorgeous.
Yeah, and there's so many of these 2D fighters. Like the Guilty Gear series.
Love Guilty Gear. Yeah.
There's that new one now that the name has jumped out of my head. That's hot at the moment. And then there's the 3D fighters. Out of the 3D fighters, I don't know if I love watching them as much. Probably the one that I end up seeing more than the others is Tekken, just because it's probably the biggest one right now. I actually prefer Virtua Fighter a whole lot more.
I don't know. 3D fighters don't. They feel like a different genre to me almost, and I don't like them nearly as much as 2D. I'm like never been a big Tekken guy, never been a big Virtua Fighter guy. The only two I've spent any real time on, or three I guess, would be a little bit of Soul Calibur 2, I don't mind the Dead or Alive games. I put some time into a couple of those. I just feel they're a little more fluid than the Tekken games where it's like the wrestling moves and big, like, powerful hits.
Yep.
What was it there? Oh, Bloody Roar. I played a little bit of Bloody Roar games. So those ones are pretty fun just to goof around in. I've never spent any time trying to get good at those kind of things. They're just fun.
Yeah, I think Dead or Alive has really taken the essence of what Virtua Fighter had, and it's what's kind of grown into that space. And I don't mind watching DOA, and I don't mind playing DOA. I can't spend enough time to get really good at any of it, but I still think they're fun. And
even when Virtua Fighter was like brand new and I got to play it in an arcade, it felt really stiff to me. I didn't enjoy it even when it was supposed to like wow me.
It's a very purposeful fighter. I guess that's probably the way I would phrase it. It's not a button. You can't button mash. It's not friendly for any of that at all. You have to know what you're doing, and you have to execute, or it's a mess. But I feel like Virtua Fighter's always been more of like a 2D fighter in a 3D space because it doesn't have a lot of that running around the other character or side dodging like some of the other ones do.
Yeah, that's big in Soul Calibur. Yeah.
Right. So I guess that's why I enjoyed it. Tekken I never got into mostly because of the weird, like, 2 arm buttons, 2 leg buttons system. That feels really wrong to me. I don't mind watching people play Tekken, but I just can't play Tekken. Have you spent much? I know, because, like, man, remember Tekken, Tekken 2, Tekken 3 were so huge in the PlayStation days. Did you play much of those?
Not much, no. I didn't have any friends who really pushed me to play them, and I don't like the character design in those games either. There was no character I want to play this guy. So they never appealed to me. I didn't have any friends pushing it on me. I think we played more Battle Arena Toshinden than Tekken when PlayStation first came out.
And see, that was the thing for me. I had Saturn, and I didn't get PlayStation till later. So I was playing, like, the Street Fighter Alpha games while everybody else was into Tekken and stuff at that point in time, the 3D fighters. And I played some Virtua Fighter because I had that, Virtua Fighter 2. Yeah. But I feel like I didn't get into those a lot because it was like that was on PlayStation.
For sure. Well, I think you lucked out there because Street Fighter Alpha is pretty fantastic compared to Tekken, I'd say.
Yeah, the Alpha games were awesome. And I spent a lot of time, and I think it's really a shame we never got Alpha 3 here on Saturn. But playing the import version on Saturn is awesome. It's fantastic.
Right on. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think we're pretty much in agreement on there. This 3D don't have that special something that the 2D games have.
At least to me, it's just a different thing. It's a different beast, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just cutting teeth on 2D fighters. It just doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel good.
That's kind of how I feel about even like Street Fighter 4 and 5. Like they feel almost like 3D fighters to me, and I don't enjoy playing them as much as I like in playing all the older ones.
Now, see, I just look at them as they've just beefed up some of the systems. Some I think, more that I can enjoy, some that it's tougher for me to enjoy because the more technical they get, the tougher it is for me because I can't invest the time.
Yeah.
So like, Street
Fighter 4 almost feels Virtua Fighter to me in how like stiff and like how like you were saying, like it's a very purposeful movements. Like you can't mess around too much. You have to kind of know what you're doing, and it really turned me off of that series big time.
Yeah, it's not 3. You know what I mean? 3 is kind of that apex of that style, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And 4 and 5 are their own beasts. I still enjoy enough of it because with casual people, you can still play enough Street Fighter 4 and 5 like Street Fighter 2. So if you knew that, you could still get away with playing that way. But if you want to be really good at those games, you can't play them that way. And that's the thing. Like the V system in Street Fighter 5. Man, there's a lot you can do with it, but now we've gotten to the point where it's tough for me. Street Fighter 2, we had 6 buttons, and that was a lot to get around. Now with Street Fighter 5, really, if you had a button for everything, you would have, probably like 9 buttons you'd have to manage, because now you just have you have to hit combinations of buttons, right? So if you want V skill, it's if you want V skill, it's these 2 buttons to get. It's your 2 lights, or and then
you need your triple punch for something,
right? Well, which is
kick or something.
Fine, but like if you want throw, it's going to be your 2 mediums. If you want, and V reversal has its own thing, and you have V skill, and then you have V trigger, and it's just, there's a lot of systems to it. And again, watching the people that are good at those things is really cool, and they can do some really neat stuff with them. Am I going to get to that level? I'm just not.
So, have you played the other extreme and played something like Dive Kick or like Needhog that's like extremely simplistic?
I played Dive Kick with you guys over at Bill's. That's the only experience I've ever had with Dive Kick. To me, it's a gimmick. I mean, it's a goofy... It's like a Flash game, so...
Yeah, it does seem like that. It had some competitive life in it for a little while. It was pretty amusing to watch.
It is, and I've seen people play Nidhogg, but I've never played it because it's a PC game. So, I don't really have a way to play that.
It came out on consoles too, digitally.
Did it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess I must have just missed it, but...
Yeah.
I think it's mostly
a
Steam game.
I thought you would have played that one at some part. Yeah, I think that's probably where it made its debut.
Yeah, I always thought it was just a Steam game, so that's why I never even bothered to look into it.
Yeah, we ran just a demo station of it at some local conventions we've had here, and it's always fun to just like we were talking about Street Fighter earlier, just have the winner keep going and someone come up and play them, because it's like a primitive version of that old like Prince of Persia movement.
Yeah,
it's kind of like rotoscope movement to it, so everything feels a little like realistic in quotes, but weird. And yeah, you got some like fencing, or you can just try and like completely avoid them and run away because you're just trying to get from one side of the screen to the other rather than kill your opponent because they'll keep respawning.
Yeah, and I think that's a thing that people don't have to wrap their minds around. That was just a thing in the arcade days, is that winner stays on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you had to put money up, and winning is what kept you from spending more money. And so you were pretty motivated to get good at it. And that concept that people these days won't know of you putting your quarter up on the marquee, right? Or up on the bezel. And that's my quarter. And then people would stack theirs afterwards, like, right, I got next. And, that's just not something that happens anymore. And you can win, you can lose, but that incentive was pretty big to get good at that, because, you could play on $1 for hours if you were pretty good. And if you sucked, you were going to blow through cash fast.
And it wasn't just playing, like, you felt really good.
Oh, yeah.
You were beating another human being, and there were spectators like look at that guy, like he can turtle with guile like nobody's business.
Oh well, I mean, that's it, right? When you got pretty good, and you could just smoke people that would just you'd have this rotating line of people that would come through, and you would you would feel really good. But when you were on the receiving end, it was tough. It was tough because you'd have your one shot, and then there might be 5 other people waiting, so you have to wait again, right? Until it was your turn to come back to the queue. And eventually somebody would get bored or choose another character or something, but,
Yeah, there was a guy, when we went to Retro World, I can't remember if it was the first or the second time I was there, but they had the little arcade set up, and they had Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which is another one that I spent a fair amount of time on, both in and out of an arcade. And there was a guy there, same thing. There wasn't a big lineup. There was, 2-3 guys in the line consistently that he was working his way through, and no one was taking him off the game. And I played through. He beat me, but it was a good fight. So I got back in the back of the line again.
Yeah.
Beat me again, but a little bit closer. And then the third time I took him down, and I felt really good. He gave me a high five for taking him down, and then he went off to play on a new machine.
Yeah, that's
really
it.
good.
Because if you're winning, you do eventually want someone to kind of give you a run, right? Because if
Yeah.
if you're just beating the tar out of every person that comes up, it's not really fun. And you're almost kind of like, I just want to go do something else. But you don't want to leave that machine because, you're like you're king of the hill, right? And somebody has to knock you off. So, you would either eventually like, okay, I'll just pick a different character that I'm not very good at or something. But yeah, you feel really good when you take that spot, right?
Yeah.
It was always
at that point there was nobody else there. It was just me and him, but it still felt really good.
or sometimes though you'd find like the person that you just knew they were always going to pick the cheesiest character in the roster and just use the cheese like nobody's business. And sometimes you're like, okay, fine, I'll see if I can battle through it. Sometimes you're like, man, if you just want to cheese, just have fun. I'm not interested, right? It's like, okay,
I like that. I take that as a challenge. Like, here's one character I have to figure out.
I get it. Be like,
Or one move, whatever it is. Yeah.
Like if you're playing hyper fighting and they just want to play Vega all day, right? You're like, come on, man. This is not fun. It's not fun for you. It's not really fun for me. I mean, I get it. You're winning, but it's cheese.
I do find that fun because it's like, I got to overcome this challenge. And like you said, Vega, hard as hell to figure out where he's coming from half the time and which side you need to block on. And I enjoy learning that. If the person is willing to play, 10 times in a row so I can figure out Vega, like I find some joy in that.
Yeah, I just, it's never fun in a fighting game when you're playing a broken character. And it's like, and the person playing knows they're broken too. In some cases, I get it. Like when I watch tournaments, do I understand why they pick top tier characters? Of course. They're going to make money, right? There's money on the line. Of course you're going to pick good characters. And the ones that are character specialists and stick to a character even when they're not top tier, I got a lot of respect for them. Especially when they win. You're like, man, you invested a lot to get here. But I can't be mad at the people that pick the top tier or the broken characters because that's why they're there, right? And some of them, that's their job. They are a professional player. And it's like, how can I be mad at you? This is what you should be doing to win.
I had a buddy who used to show up. He was big into competitive swimming. So he was up at like 5 a.m. to get his swim time in before the pool opened. And then so I lived really close to my high school. So he'd do swimming and he's like, I got like an hour to kill. Can I come hang out at your house? If you wake up early, we'll play some games before school starts. I was like, yeah, heck yeah. So he'd always come over at like 7 a.m. We play games until late, go to school together. And one of the ones that was in a regular rotation was the original Marvel vs. Capcom. And we like, I love the cheesy characters when someone else picks them. So he would like input the code constantly to play as like the last boss Onslaught from the game. And I'd lose 10 times in a row to every one that I won, but it feels so good when you get that one win. It's worth the 10 losses. So I didn't mind the cheesy characters, and he had a lot of fun goofing around and trying to learn these big hulking beast monsters that took up, 9/10 of the screen.
Yeah. It is a different dynamic. And I think there's one thing that's having fun. But I mean, it was kind of like, when like one of those, probably like the first time we went to Retro, where we're all in like Bill's basement, right? We're playing Super Nintendo and there's a bunch of guys there and I can just wipe the floor with these guys pretty easily. And so eventually I'm like, I'm just going to try some goofy stuff and goof around because, it's just not fun. And it's not going to be fun for them to lose constantly. They won't want to play.
Yeah. You got to know who you're playing against. Yeah, in that scenario, I think you're totally right. I don't think they would have kept coming back if you just, perfect every match.
Right. It's not fun for anybody. And that, true. I'm like, it's like, I'm not getting a prize at the end of the day. I'm just trying to have fun with people. So, if you beat the crap out of me, okay. It's fun.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes don't let it get too competitive, right? Like when you were I were at the show, we would play some fighting games, right? Like we played some King of Fighters and stuff. It's like I'd win some, you'd win some. It's fun.
Totally. Totally. I tried the Street Fighter 2 tournament there, and I got wiped out in the first round.
Oh, yeah. Probably like by a Vega or something, right?
No, I think it was just a Ryu.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I mean...
He was just better than me, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and invincible DPs and stuff, right? So, I mean... There are certain mechanics in those games when you understand them. And if you're good, I mean, you do have to be good, but yeah, I get it.
Totally.
And it depends on the game too, right? Like, because there's who's good in vanilla Street Fighter 2 is not who's good in Champion Edition, is not who's good in Turbo.
Yeah.
So you have to know.
Zangief's always good, though.
If you're good at Zangief, yeah.
I'm not. I just like playing him.
There is nothing more fun than pulling off a spinning pile driver on somebody.
I agree. I agree. We when we did the Street Fighter 2 tournament up here at my store, the first one, there was a guy that came from that Street Fighter group that I was mentioning that we used to meet weekly, and he was like the guy, like top two for sure. Like he took most of the events, and so I got matched up against him really early. I'm obviously expected to lose. Picked my Zangief just to have fun. I think he was Guile at the time.
Yeah. And
the first round we played, I got 4 spinning pile drivers off on him without him hitting me. So that's his whole life bar. It was a perfect match. And then he got so mad because he's like used to winning and not being embarrassed when he does lose. He just decimated me. He wasn't goofing around the rest of the fight. And he just took me out the next 2 rounds. But it was so worth it.
Yeah, because it's just fun. You want to look over like... Because, like, the first one can be fluky, right? And then you nail another one, and they're looking over like, wait a minute. but if you get to 3 or 4...
The third one, they're like, what is happening?
But that happens in fighting games, right? Sometimes you just melt somebody, and it just happens, right? And I don't even know if you can recreate it. It happens sometimes. And you'll get those lucky wins where you just feel like $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah, so even though I lost that match, I only won that round. That is one of my funnest matches I've ever had playing Street Fighter.
Some of these moves are so crazy to do. It's just, you're just happy when you can do them, period.
Yeah.
It's kind of like supers, right? Sure. In some of these, like, oh, if I can pull off and kill you with a super, that's like...
yeah. That was one thing about Street Fighter 4 that was fun to watch, was every time someone landed a super or an ultra, the whole room just exploded. Everyone was so pumped just to see this thing land.
Yeah, and the animations are good, and it's a lot of fun. And, and in Street Fighter 4, I always thought ultras were weird, because I'm like, it's just like another super move? What is the deal with this? But they didn't take off a ton of damage, so you didn't fret about it too terribly much compared to supers, but they were cool to watch.
Yeah, and always, it's just fun to see them land,
and they do a good job. The supers in 5 are good; they're cool to watch. I always like seeing them. And I know you don't like the character stuff going on in 5 very much, right? You're not a big fan.
I actually want to get into that a little more, just in games in general, but not just that one.
But I like 5, so But let's get into whatever. Let's get to
it. So I haven't bought a new fighting game in years now because I hate how they get released. How it's like, here's a portion of the game, and then over the next months or years, we will slowly release chunks that you pay us more for. That style of monetization doesn't jive with how I want to purchase things, or how much time I even want to spend with the game if I did want to purchase things, because I like to be able to upfront just load my 100 hours in right off the bat and then move on to another game and do that with. I don't like being stuck in an ecosystem for years at a time. So like Smash Brothers is doing that, Street Fighter is doing that, Mortal Kombat's doing that, Injustice is doing that, King of Fighters is doing that, Dragon Ball Z Fighters is doing that. Like, everyone's doing it, and so it's obviously working for them. Mm-hmm. It's actually pushed me out of this genre that I love, and I occasionally get lucky. Like Injustice is a series I really, really like, and like a year or two after they've finished their season, they'll put out the package that has everything in it. So I can buy the full game, but I miss out on that like excitement and community when it first comes out and everybody's into it.
And I think that's it. And I get it, to make money on these things, they have to have a long lifespan. And you can't, I think just dev-wise, you just can't do it. Like now Street Fighter V is up to, like 40 characters, and then there's like 5 more coming up in the season. Like they just announced the new characters, which I think was cool, which we didn't talk about, but so they announced Dan, Rose, Akira, and Oro, and then they're going to add one more that they haven't said yet.
A mystery.
But it's really weird because it's not like it has been. This season is going to extend all the way into the end of 2021. So I'm thinking this is going to be the last of Street Fighter V, and we'll probably get Street Fighter 6 in 2022.
And I know people like tease Capcom, or they used to anyway, because you'd have Street Fighter Championship, Street Fighter Turbo, Super Street Fighter Turbo, and they just keep milking the same game and release it, and by the end they'd have 8 versions of the same game out. I liked that model, and I bought into that model. I bought Street Fighter 4, I bought Super Street Fighter 4, I bought Ultra Street Fighter 4, I bought Ultra Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, because that was how I got the extra content every time.
You can still do that,
but
there's been 3 releases of Street Fighter V.
Have there really?
Yeah, there's original Street Fighter V. There was Arcade,
which I bought.
I think it was Arcade Edition, and that had like the first 2 seasons in it of characters with the base game. And then they just released Champion Edition, and that had everything up through season 4, I believe.
Oh yeah, I haven't been following that as closely. Then I need to get on that.
Yeah. So you can go buy Champion, and the nice thing about Champion Edition is you also get all the costumes, except for some exclusive ones that you had to buy. And
I don't understand the fascination with skins in any game.
Well, I get if you're competitive, because like you want to be. I mean, you're spending hundreds of hours in something. You want to change things up sometimes. For me, I don't have the time. It's just fun sometimes to be like, oh, check this out. But
I don't even like watching tournament levels. Like it bothers me when they're not just in their standard costumes. I don't like. I
love the costumes. Yeah, I think they're really pretty cool. And Street Fighter V has a way you can earn costumes they have a weekly thing, and so every 4 weeks you can earn some costumes. If you want to do it, I mean, you'll have to. But like Street Fighter 4 has fight money. Right. I mean, Street Fighter 5. So if you want to, if you don't want to pay for characters, you can buy them that way. You don't have to spend money. But yeah, basically what they've seemed to do is like every 2 seasons they'll put out a new disc, and you get it all on there. So yeah, if you want to pick up Champion Edition right now, it's probably like $30, and you'll get all that content.
I gotta look that up, because I totally was unaware of that for Street Fighter.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's when we played not too long ago. That's what we were on as Champion Edition. And everybody gets the update, except you just don't get all the characters if you don't have, whatever that latest version is.
Right.
You can always, even if you have base Street Fighter V, which you could probably buy for like $2 right now, you could still play against all the other people. It's just, you'd have to think about it that way. But yeah, I think it's just the economics of it. They have to be able to get like 5 or 6 years out of these games. At least Capcom does. I think the tougher part, is I don't understand how Neversoft is doing it, because their games, they only typically get like 2 years out of them before they're dead.
They, like the last, I don't know what the sales is for Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter nowadays, but the last Mortal Kombats, the last 2 of them in a row have been the best-selling games in the entire series. Like, they're trending upwards still, which is impressive for that genre.
But is it just me, or do they do not have a long lifespan?
I think people are still buying 11. I don't think it's got the tournament life that Street Fighter's had, but I think sales-wise it's keeping up with it just fine.
Okay. I know it's like Injustice just seems like the Injustice games fall off pretty quick.
Yeah, just seem like they drop off, which is sad to me, because out of those 3, those are my favorite ones.
Yeah, I don't really care about new Mortal Kombat at all, but the Injustice games are fun. I mean, I'm not good at them. I'm not good at Never Stuff Fighters. I don't get them. But, I mean, it's fun to be those characters and mash buttons.
Yeah. And the story modes are really solid in them too.
Yeah.
For a fighting game, I'm very impressed with them.
And they look good. So
they look great, yeah. The Street Fighter, not Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. We played 1 and 2 when I was a kid for a weekend because it was silly and goofy and you could tear a guy's spine out of his throat. And the novelty was over. It wasn't something I kept going back to after we did all the fatalities once. Like, you just wanted to see them. That was it. It was like sneaking into an R-rated movie. You don't keep sneaking into the same movie. The new ones are so graphic. I have a hard time with the fatalities and the X-ray moves. It doesn't appeal to me at all anymore.
I've got kids. I just would not. I mean, we can watch Street Fighter. You know what I mean? It's cartoon violence, and honestly, people get knocked out. That's the worst thing that happens. KO, I can tell my kids, they're not dead. They just got knocked out. You know, there's no way I could watch play a Mortal Kombat game in front of them. Just not possible.
I think my 4-year-old would love it. She's so into gore and monsters and stuff right now. To the level that we will let a 4-year-old watch that kind of stuff. I was
going to say, I would not let my kid consume that, but...
No, but we've been playing Lego lately, and we didn't know if she was old enough to handle Lego appropriately, and she's doing awesome with it. So we're talking maybe Christmas this year, we'll get a big Lego set or something. So I was just fishing, and I asked her, I'm like, would you rather have a big princess castle or a big spooky haunted mansion? She's like, the haunted castle and monsters and stuff.
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
So maybe my kids would be into that kind of thing that I'm not anymore, but I was when I was their age. But yeah, I can't do the Mortal Kombat anymore. But I like the style of game there. So Injustice hits that sweet spot for me where it's not got that level of violence, but it's still got the fun mechanics and it looks great. Fun characters, good story. I really, really like those games.
Well, I'm glad to hear that maybe your ears perked up around Street Fighter V Champion Edition. I really like playing. I would love to play those games with you guys more often if I can get you to plunk down.
I've still got the PC copy that I bought when I had the store. So yeah, if you want to do another night, if we can get 1 or 2 more guys together, I'd be happy to jump in with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We could be happy to do that. And that's the thing. I think that arcade scene, now that it's gone, it's all online now. But I think with friends, you can still have a ton of fun with it, right?
Yeah. I never have PSN or Xbox Live to do the online stuff with. I tried it once when KOF 13 was out. And yeah, it's not the same feeling because you get people either dropping or quitting for matches often enough that it's really frustrating. Or you get those lag moments where you're I'm doing things where my character's just standing there and then the game catches up with you. And as internet speeds are getting better, I'm sure that's getting better too. But yeah, it's not the same as being able to sit on the couch with somebody or be in an arcade with somebody.
Yeah, and I just, honestly, I don't care. I mean, they have all these online ranked modes and everything. I do not care one bit. I'm never going to be at the top of that, and I don't have the time as an adult with kids to invest in it. I just want to have fun. So, when we can get on Skype calls and things and just beat the tar out of each other and have fun, that kind of reminds me going back to that fun arcade days and some of that. And I think that's the one thing that fighting games brings that some other games can't, is that anybody can play them, and you don't have to be very good. You can just laugh and have fun, and sometimes you land something that's cool, and you can laugh about it, but you can just hang out while you're playing.
Yeah, that's kind of why I like watching some of those games in Evo that I'm not familiar with too, because I understand, there's a health bar, he's punching that guy, he's shooting fireballs. I know the basic enough concepts to enjoy the game, even when I don't know the in-depth details of it. Yeah,
and that's the thing, right? Street Fighter set so many standards that still exist to this day. It's almost crazy that some of these haven't evolved more than they have.
All the new games do is add a new meter that does something different than the meter in the last game now.
Yeah, kinda, or like they look prettier, or they're nasty and gorier, or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I played a lot of Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 in the arcade, and 2 I played a lot simply because I think it was a well-made game and it was fun to play.
That'd be my favorite of them. Yeah.
Whereas Mortal Kombat 1 was not as great, and then 3 and afterwards, yeah, they weren't great to me. But I'm sure they have their fans. Once they put a run button in there, I was like, I'm done. I don't. This is yeah.
I did play a significant amount of 3 Ultra. We had that one on the Genesis. I remember having a big Game Pro book with all the moves and fatalities, and like going through until I saw everybody's friendship, everybody's animality, everybody's fatality.
My problem with that game was simply the run button and the dial a combo thing you had to do, where it didn't take skill. It was just push these buttons in this order. So basically all the game ever turned into is you just hear the run noise constantly and people pushing buttons. So it was just, you'd get tired of it. It was kind of like Colossus and X-Men, right? It was, it sounds you'd get tired of hearing very quickly.
Yeah.
They were a lot of fun. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, we're talking about all of our like favorites. Do you have like a underdog fighter that you love that we haven't talked about at all yet?
An underdog fighter. Ah, man. That's tough. I guess I don't know what I would consider to be an underdog. I mean, I would probably...
Do you have a guilty pleasure then, if I rephrased it?
Okay, I mean, I would probably say things like Fighter's History, right? Fighter's History is not known to be like, man, that's the most awesome fighting game in the world. But I played it, right? It was a thing that was in the Neo Geo, and we played it a lot. So, I mean, I have an affinity. Or like World Heroes, right? Yeah. I don't think anybody would probably sit back and go like, man, top tier, World Heroes.
No, but it's one of the best Street Fighter clones, I think, at the time.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, King of Fighters was the best of that.
Yeah, but that was a couple of years after World Heroes.
Yeah. Well, no, not the first King of Fighters was pretty early.
Yeah, but the first King of Fighters is bad.
Not
World Heroes
not
is
King.
better.
I'm sorry, I meant Fatal Fury. That's me making a mistake. I meant Fatal Fury.
Okay.
I think Fatal Fury is probably the best of the Street Fighter clones.
I'd have to play that back to back with World Heroes again, because I've always thought World Heroes was significantly better, but it has been a long time since I played either one.
Yeah, Fatal Fury just had that weird two-plane thing that you had to deal with.
Jump back.
But I would probably say, yeah, guilty pleasure would be some of those really early Neo Geo fighters. I mean, they got really good later, right? Like the Samurai Showdown games, really good. The King of Fighters, in like '95 when I played it, was good. I like World Heroes 2. I'm excited to get a flash card at some point in time because I never got to play like Jet or Perfect, and they added new characters in those. So I'll be excited to go back and see kind of like the last revisions of that formula. So I guess I'd put that. I played also like this. When 360 was a thing, there was this fighting game called Battle Fantasia, which was like...
Oh, yeah, I know that. That's got a sweet cover. Yeah, all like anime kind of brownish gray color to it.
Yeah, and it was like bargain binned really fast, and it didn't... But it was good. I mean, I enjoyed playing it, and it looked good, and like I said, it wasn't going to win any awards. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is a new hotness, but it was a solid fighting game that looked decent. So, I had fun with it. How about you? Did you scrape the bottom of the barrel or something?
Yeah, one that I put a lot of more time into than the game warranted was the X-Men Mutant Academy on PS1.
I've never played that.
It's just got a bunch of X-Men in it. Like, I think there's 10 characters maybe. And it's that really early 3D polygonal kind of style, but it's not a 3D fighter. It's like a 2D fighter. And so all the special moves are really slow because the character animations are like struggling to move on the PS1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was like right around the time the first movie came out. It might have predated that by a year or two. But it looks horrendous. It doesn't have a very deep roster. The moves are awful looking. But we played that a lot just because I liked X-Men.
Did you ever play... the Eternal Champions games?
Yeah, those are really good. I forgot all about those.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I put a lot of time into those.
Right, I don't know why I just totally spaced that until right now. Those were so solid, but never got enough attention.
Very good.
Right, those
Totally,
were
yeah.
really well done.
I take back what I said about World Heroes being the best Street Fighter clone. Eternal Champions is better than World Heroes.
Yeah, especially the Sega CD version was, man, that was so good.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of that because I was also thinking of Time Killers, which was really just terrible. But we did play Time Killers in the arcade. We played it because it was there. And
just killing time, playing Time Killers.
And you could chop people's heads off and stuff. And I just always remember I would play Mantaz because he was,
I have not spent any time on that one.
His tail is so terrible.
Did you play Battle Blaze on the Super Nintendo? That's another terrible one.
No. But we were like, what was it? Maybe like a year or two ago? Was it like Unholy Night or whatever? That new Super Nintendo fighting game came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I bought it.
I do remember that.
It's so horrible. It's so terribly bad. I think you can buy it now for like $10 or something. And okay, go buy it for $10 because it's a Super Nintendo game. It's a new Super Nintendo game. It's terrible. It's so terrible.
That's a shame.
I know. I thought like, oh man, a new fighting game, like a new Super. It's gonna be cool. No, no, it is nowhere close to cool. But yeah, like Eternal Champions on Sega CD, totally solid. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm with you there, and that I also totally blanked on Eternal Champions this whole conversation until you brought it up.
Yeah,
great game. Even the Genesis one's really good too. Like this, yeah, you're right. The Sega CD one is amazing, but the Genesis one's solid as well.
Yeah. Any other terrible fighters you liked?
Not a terrible one, but one I never hear anybody talk about anymore is the Persona 4 Arena fighting games.
Okay, no, I've never.
So good, so good. They're made. I'm pretty sure by the same team that does the Guilty Gear games. So they're really quick. They look amazing. Awesome music. And I was talking about how I like the story mode in Injustice, but the Persona 4 story mode is even better, and it's huge, and it's different for every character, and it ties into the actual game. It's like canon story for the Persona role-playing games in the fighting game spin-offs, which is pretty impressive.
And that's the thing, is like a
lot of time into the first one.
One that I really enjoyed that I think was pretty well known, but was when I had a Dreamcast, man. Capcom versus SNK. I played so much Capcom versus SNK. I loved that game. And it had like unlocks you could get by keeping playing and stuff. And I unlocked everything in that game. I played that one to death. I never really spent that much time on Capcom versus SNK 2, and I know that's the one that's the more popular of the two. But man, I really loved Capcom vs. SNK on the Dreamcast. It was great. Did you ever play those, the versus SNK games?
A little bit, but by the time I'd had my Dreamcast, definitely gravitated more towards Third Strike and Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Understandable. I mean, Third Strike was pretty amazing.
But we did throw versus SNK in there once in a while.
Yeah, man, I played that one so much. Because to me, that was, I know like some people are like, oh, I want Capcom versus, Mortal Kombat or whatever. And I'm like, never. Once they announced Capcom versus SNK, though, I'm like, I am so on board. Like, this is totally my jam. But I never got to play SNK versus Capcom. Did you ever play that one?
No, I haven't either. No.
Because I've got to play that one at some point in time. Because it was like, that was the thing they were going to do, right? Capcom was going to do one, Capcom versus SNK, and then SNK was going to do one, SNK versus Capcom. And that was the big story, right? And then like Capcom versus SNK came out, and it like took a while before the other one came out, and so I just never played it. So I'd be curious.
The same thing when they did the Street Fighter Tekken crossover. It seemed like the reverse just took forever.
Yeah, and it wasn't very popular either, was it? Yeah, it's interesting.
It died off pretty quick.
I think that's it. Capcom, for the most part, knows how to make fighting games pretty well. And that's not an easy thing to pull off.
They've pretty much been leading the pack since 2. Yeah.
Yeah, which I was kind of sad to hear about Ono leaving Capcom.
Yeah, this really recent news too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been involved since basically resurrecting 4. So him leaving is kind of sad. I know he's had health problems, and I don't know all the details but why he left. But yeah, it got be interesting to see where things go with that. But
At least he got to C5 almost to the end, like before they launch a 6th one if they do that.
oh, I mean, how do they not, right? I mean, can you imagine them not doing a Street Fighter 6?
No, they'll definitely do one. I just think it might be different again. They might, like, go to like a free-to-play model or something next time. Who knows? Maybe fighting games will have another transition in how they put them out.
I've always thought that these days with the systems they use, they would be smart to just do a free-to-play base game and then make their money through the unlocks for other characters or season passes or whatever. And you don't have to give people much, right? Just like give them 3 or 4 characters just to like, hey, try this. You may like it. And
that seems to be the trend lately. I would not be surprised if something like that happened.
And what I see a lot lately is to try to get people in, they'll just like Street Fighter's been doing a lot of like free. They're like, oh, we'll do these 2 weeks of unlock. Everything's unlocked, and everybody can play for free. See if you like it, and then you'll have to buy if you don't. But right. I think just having some kind of base game for free would probably go a long way.
Yeah. I think whoever tries it first is probably going to be pretty successful.
Yeah, and DOA did it first already. I mean,
I meant out of like the big guys, like if Mortal Kombat or Killer Instinct or Street Fighter does it first.
Yeah,
they're gonna strike gold.
DOA's done it for 5 and 6, I think, because are they on 6 now? I think they do that Core Fighters where they release that basically for free and then make all their money.
Isn't it like an insane amount of money to buy their passes though? Like I thought it was like $120 or something, just silly for it.
They put out a lot of content, but DOA is its own thing, I think, right? And we know why DOA is its own thing. We don't really have to bring that up, do we?
Yeah. So do you have like a top 3, like a holy trinity of fighters in your mind?
Yeah. In terms of like, if I want to sit and I want to play something, yeah. So to me, probably my favorite one to play would be Hyper Fighting. So, 2 Turbo is probably to me the best. I mean, don't get me wrong, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo is good, but I think as far as just games playing fantastically, that's probably pretty far up there. 3 Third Strike. I never got really good at Third Strike because I was kind of after my days, and I could never invest the time. And that's a game where with the parries and everything, it's very deep systems, and I could never get far enough.
It's very, very technical.
It is, and I could never get good enough at it to really do well. But it's an amazing game to watch, and just gorgeous to play. So I'd probably have to put 3 Third Strike up there, and again, in terms of like games I just want to play and goof off with, it's not the best, but I would still put Mortal Kombat 2 up there just because it is fun to play. And that's tough for me because I really want to say Alpha 3, but
you just didn't want to put 3 Street Fighters in there?
But I mean, in reality, if I just want to sit and goof off with a fighter, MK2 is still solid, and I have fun with it. So, I would probably toss it in there. How about you?
Definitely not Mortal Kombat.
That doesn't
I'd probably
surprise
have Super Street Fighter 2.
Just 2 or Turbo?
Just 2.
Okay.
Yeah, got the roster with like everybody I need. I like having the supers. I don't need the turbo mode. I like it.
You didn't get supers in Super. You didn't get supers until Turbo.
Which one's the 3DO release? Isn't that just
Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo?
Okay, that is the one I meant then.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one I spent the most time with. Injustice 2 I'd probably go with.
Really?
Yeah, I really, really like the Injustice games.
Yeah, no, I can understand why. I mean,
there's-
obviously the characters and everything else, and they're really well made.
Yeah, every character feels really, really different in those games. There's not a lot of there's no clone characters in them really, not that I can think of.
Yeah, and I think they do a good job of making the characters' powers and everything what you would expect from them. But I mean, you can't make some of the powers as powerful as they probably would be in real life. So it's balanced.
Well, there's a lore reason for that in the games, which would not make any sense in the normal meetup with these characters.
Right, and as I say, they do a good job of making it work.
Yeah, I find in those games, it's not really frustrating, but the characters that I want to be feel weird, and I don't like playing them, and I like playing the characters that I wouldn't normally gravitate towards.
So who do you play in Injustice then? I'm curious.
I hate Batman. He's my least favorite character in that game, and he's the one I want to play the baddest, but he just moves so unusually.
Okay.
I like Batgirl, and Martian Manhunter's pretty interesting. Swamp Thing's pretty cool in that game. Flash is really fun, and I typically don't like playing the really fast guys. I like playing the big heavy brutes. But Flash is just feels right in that game.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
And my favorite fighter of all time, definitely King of Fighters 13.
King of Fighters
probably 13. Has a little to do with winning the tournament that one time, but I think it is a gorgeous game, one of my favorite looking games of any genre. It's got a massive roster, really, really fun characters, really diverse characters. It's like Third Strike in the sense that it can get really technical if you want to. With all the it's got all the different jumps, the rolls, the combos, the cancel meters. You can get pretty deep into it if you want. But even if you don't, it's just fun to play, and it can just be as basic as Street Fighter if you're playing against someone else of that skill level too. So I always have a really good time with that, and it's fun having the three characters to mess around with. So you can just build a whole bunch of different teams, and then even when you figured out your team, you got to figure out who you want to start with and anchor your team, and are you gonna use the first couple characters to build meter and then blow that all with the last character, or there's so many different ways to approach it because of the three characters.
Yeah,
that I have a lot of fun with it, and it doesn't get old quickly.
So who's your team?
I usually like to go with King right off the bat, and try and play some zoning and build up some meter. I like Andy in the middle because I feel confident with him with or without meter. So if I need to burn a little meter with him, I'm okay to do that. But otherwise, I'd like to save it for Joe, who's just my cheapo finisher. Yeah, throwing those hurricane punches in triplets with some little meter burn.
Okay, all right. No Terry, huh? Gotta give Terry the shaft.
No, Terry just feels awkward to me. I don't like playing him. I switch in Kim sometimes. I like him as a backup.
Yeah, Kim.
Yeah. Never Terry.
I'm always a Terry fan.
I feel competent with Mai too. She's fun to play with.
Geese? Is it Geese in that one?
He is my one of my buddies. Always plays a geese, and what's the other? Goro. Geese and Goro are always on his team. He likes the big dudes in that game, and I always have Goro's like Zangief. If you keep him at a distance, he's never scary. As soon as he gets close to you, you're just get away from me.
Right, you're I gotta get out of here in a hurry. Yeah. It's sometimes Geese is in some of those games is just cheese, man.
Yeah. Last time I was playing a significant amount of that, I was messing around with Blue Mary, who was really fun because she's got some cool counter moves.
Yep.
And some cool grabs and stuff. So she was a really neat character.
They always have a great roster. I mean, those are just great games, I think, in general. So, like I said, I'm really excited to get a flash cart so I can play all those on the Neo Geo. Wish I had the money to afford all the carts, but I'm not a millionaire.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to throw in before we wrap her up?
No, I could probably sit here and talk all night, but obviously we can't. To me, these games just encapsulate fun that you can have in small bursts. And that is so good for me these days. Sometimes I just don't have hours to spend. But when I can turn a game on, I can play it. I can play for like 20 minutes, and I can have some fun, and I can turn it off, and I don't feel like I need to have made some progress or just find some
that's very, very
good
true.
stopping point or anything. I can just at any point in time just go, nope, I'm good. And I don't know, that flexibility is good. I like them a lot more when I can play with somebody else, which sometimes that's tough. But yeah, I think that's what it brings to me these days. I mean, it used to bring something else to me when I was younger, but these days it's just, I love that you can just have these short burst play sessions with it.
Nice. Yeah, I actually approach them differently than that now. I still see them as like a really fun competitive experience. In like very, very casually for me now. Like my neighbor, he's really into the more 3D fighters. So he grabbed the newest Soul Calibur a few months ago. He invited me and a couple friends over. Sorry, more than a few months ago because it was before all the COVID stuff.
Right.
And we all went over for the night and just passed the controller off. And most of us were not good at it. So if you got 2 wins in a row, you were on a streak, and then you'd lose your streak right after that. But it was just fun to goof around with them. No one was taking it seriously. No one was being very good at it. But when I want to play single player, I actually like just going into like the practice mode and just like trying to nail a combo that I've never been able to hit or something. And I'll do that until I can either do it or get frustrated and move on to the next combo. And that's kind of what I've been doing single player on those kind of games for the last couple of years.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, training modes these days are really in depth.
They're great. Yeah.
In 5, like all these combo, lessons and things that are in there, which I can't pull them off because it's like, okay, go into this and then cancel this move into that, and I'm like, I can't do that.
I was trying to platinum the Persona 4 Arena.
Yeah.
And the training mode, it's like link these 2 moves together, link these 3 moves together, link these 4 moves together, link these 13 moves together. All of a sudden, it would jump from like 4 to 13, and you'd have to do like your EX cancels into something.
As soon as you get into cancels and things, I'm like, this is. I just can't reliably do a lot of that stuff. So, like the timing is.
I never did platinum that game.
It's okay. I'll never finish any combo trials for any characters in Street Fighter. So.
Yeah, they get just wild.
They do. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I'm glad we had a chance to talk about this. And
yeah, me too. It's too bad Bill wasn't here. So hopefully, if he can join us next time, we'll just we'll get his little 5-minute take at the start of the episode.
Absolutely. Yeah. Best wishes, Bill. I hope this stuff is treating you okay, man.
Yeah, me too. Well, yeah, we'll be back 2 weeks from now. We've been on schedule so far. I'm pretty impressed with us.
We're doing it, man. I feel pretty good that we're actually nailing a schedule. I don't think we've ever really, since the beginning, we did a little bit at the very beginning.
Never. Well, even then it would be like, let's put something out in this month, and we just figure out what day that month would work the best. It was pretty loose as the schedule goes.
Yeah, and I see that we are getting a few more followers. The download seems solid. So, hey, share us with your friends. Let folks know. Well, we probably should do that real quick, the find a show stuff. So do you want me to belt that out, or do you got it?
Please. No, go for it.
So, yeah, a couple quick things. I won't spend forever on it. I'm on Twitter as @Collectorcast. Kelsy, where can they find you?
At Kelsy Polnick.
And you want to spell that for folks?
KELSYPOLNIK.
I say that simply because a lot of people want to put the EY in there, and it's not.
Yeah, I never think of that, but that is true. Every driver's license or certificate I've ever received in my life has the E on it.
Yeah. So find Kelsy out there. The show, easy to find. We're on pretty much about every platform, except I still haven't figured out SoundCloud yet. But pretty much wherever else you want to find your shows, you can find the show there. We are on YouTube. I know we've got a couple dedicated YouTube listeners. We're doing what we can to keep them on YouTube. Bill's kind of our person that handles that, and Bill's kind of crazy right now. So maybe we'll see what we can do. Maybe I can help out Bill on some of that and jump in. But I think we really appreciate all these people for all these years that listen to the show. Sometimes it amazes me that we've been doing it this long and you guys still want to listen, so thank you. That means a lot.
So much.
It really does. But anyway, yeah, follow us, give us a holler, let us know what you think of the show. If you got some topic ideas that you'd like to see coming up, you know where to find us. We are on Facebook too. I don't Facebook a whole lot, but you can definitely catch us on that end. But yeah, I'm really glad when I can talk to some of the listeners. It's a lot of fun.
See you guys next time.